Okay, welcome back. So we're going to be handling score and collision with the goal walls. So before we do that, we want to set sort of a visual cue for this. If you've been wondering why I have a different Unity tab open, just because I was testing out how to make a working prototype. Uh, so just making sure everything worked before I made the tutorial. So we're going to create a new material. So right click in project, create material. We're going to call this goal. And we're going to attach this to both the left and the right walls, so east and west. We're going to change the albedo, not the albedo, the color to, well, you can change it to whatever you want. I'm personally going to change a sort of bright green, maybe darker. That works for me, but not exactly. We're going to scale this up just a little bit so on the game it doesn't look so janky. Scale it up a little bit here. So R, scale it up a little bit. Now it looks kind of janky in perspective view, but when it's flat like this in orthographic, oh yeah, this is a good time to show you the difference between orthographic and perspective. So click on the main camera. Currently it should be in orthographic view where it's a rectangle, but if we were to change it to perspective, it makes things look much more three-dimensional. You can kind of see it there. You can see around things, but we want a sort of 2D view here, so we're going to keep it in orthographic. So score. We are going to put this code in the ball. Sometimes you would use a game manager or score manager script and attach it to an actual object, but since this is a simple game, it won't get too cluttered. We're going to put it in the ball script. So let's open up ball. We're going to want a few things. We're going to want a public just so we can keep track of it, and the inspector. It can be private, but actually, you know what? It's a good time if we just do private. Int player 1 score. Oopsie daisy. And then private int player 2 score. And then we're going to, above them, do hard bracket, and inside it, serialized field. Copy this. Put this over here. Basically what this does is shows private variables in the inspector, but we can't modify them. This is important because we don't want to modify the score. So now in the collision function, right now this is what happens whenever it collides with anything with a collider. But now we want to get more specific. So we're going to set up a few if statements. So we want to detect when it hits the east and west wall, which are our green walls. So if it hits, so we make an if statement, if col, which is when it collides, this is the collision that's passed in from the game, dot game object, since it's colliding with a game object, dot name, and this is why it's important to make sure you had it case sensitive and exactly how I wrote it, or however you wrote it should be the same as here, equals, so it's just checking if it's equal to west wall. We know that the west wall means a goal for player 2, so we're going to do player 2 score plus plus, so it increments by 1, semicolon. Make sure that semicolon is there. Semicolons ends things in C#. Or if you've coded in Java, it's very similar. So now we want to do the same thing for the east wall. So game object dot name equals, and in quotes, east wall. And then we do player 1 score. Oopsie daisy, that's not what I wanted to do. Player 1 score plus plus. Now, if we go back into our game and we hit the ball, we can see that in the script down here, the bottom right, you can see that there's a player 1 score and a player 2 score. And if we just kind of let this play out, you can see that when it hits the east wall, it increases each of their scores. But it's kind of not fair to have it just bounce off the wall. So we want to set it in the middle. But before we do that, I've noticed I haven't really explained it yet, but whenever I hit play, it makes the whole screen red. This is because whenever I change a value or anything in the game while I'm playing it, and then I unpause and then I stop the game, everything snaps back. So any value, any changes you made while the game is playing won't count if you're playing the game currently. If you're going to change anything, it should be for testing purposes only. So to keep me from making that mistake again, which trust me, it'll happen. If you're on Mac, you want to hit Unity. If you're on Windows, you go to Edit, and then you go to Preferences. Then you go to Color, go to General, Play Mode Tint, and set it to whatever color will be noticeable, but also won't blow your eyes out. So I'm going with a light pinkish red color. That's noticeable, but won't destroy my eyes, which is nice. Some people like to go for pitch black, so it's almost impossible for them to change things just because they can't see anything. But I still like to test things, so, and observe values. So a light red is fine for me. So back to the ball. We want it to sort of, whenever it hits the goal, go back to the center where it started. So we want to sort of set a position for that. So under this, we're going to make a new vector 3, a transform, basically a position. We're using it as a position. We're going to do vector 3 spawn point. This is setting a specific position. You can set it so that the spawn point is on top of a empty object, like I showed you before, that houses all of the walls, like a folder. Empty objects can be used for spawn points, but we're just using a specific X, Y, and Z value. And then we're going to go down to the if statement that we have here. We're going to set, once it hits the west or east wall, we want the transform dot position equal spawn point. I'm going to copy this over. So now, if we were to play the game, yeah, see? It goes all the way back, and it continues in the opposite direction because it's reflecting off the wall it hit still. It will go in another direction. So automatically it goes towards the other player who scored the goal, and that's pretty fair. Play around with that for a while. But this is basically how the ball should work. And that's going to be our episode for today. Next episode, we're probably going to go over UI elements and particle effects. But until then, thank you for watching.